What's up? This is Redden, February 1st, Saturday, 2014. Just about 6 o'clock Central Time. I have a I have some topics that I feel very relevant, and I'm sure a lot of this country and this world does as well. The first one is weather control, and I call it weather control because it's not global warming or whatever. It's not being spoken about, and it's very real, and it's very much a threat, especially to this country right now. And I live in this country. I can't speak about what goes on in a lot of the world because I'm not there, and I certainly don't rely on the mass media, the news media, to especially that I get from this country, and is not imported from the rest of the world to tell me what the hell's going on in the rest of the world. So, our country is being bombarded with mass weather events. Atlanta, just across the country, weather events. That are not typical. And, this even goes back to, New York, the heart of our country. I mean, the biggest city in the country, but certainly the one that's been bombarded a lot. Not just by the planned, you know, let's just face it, the 9/11 attacks, that were orchestrated by our country, and by saying that, not just our country, by the people on top, certainly George W. 6 people died in those attacks, and it was blamed on another nation. It was blamed on the Middle East. It was blamed on anybody of Middle Eastern descent. Certainly, they were profiled. They were used as a scapegoat. They were that region was bombed on live TV, and mass genocide, as I call it. And certainly, I don't see how it could be called anything else. Bombing a live or a large region of innocent men, women, and children, certainly for no reason other than there was no reason for it. In shock and awe, as they called it on live TV. Even before I knew the specifics behind everything that I know now, you know, that's genocide, and certainly genocide is very real. It's often done very covertly, and you know the people that are involved in it certainly have protection by the highest forms of our government. So let's start with weather control. Yes, is the weather has the ability to be controlled, and it is being so. It is being done so very negatively for this whole country currently. You're seeing just areas that are not used to uh, you know uh, winter weather events. Like, I live in Iowa here, and even up here, the weather is just, all sorts of stupid. It's being controlled. I can go outside, and certainly me, being me, is somebody who speaks out against this. Yes, it's not coincidence when I go outside that the wind will pick up, in a very frigid fashion. You know, and it's certainly not all about me. That's a scenario that I'm pinpointing out. Certainly what I brought up New York about. I mean, I don't feel bad about getting into the other topics that I just discussed, but yes, Hurricane Sandy. The last year they had just mass winter, weather events, and um, it's being done by the power brokers of this earth. You can call it the high cabal, the Illuminati, whatever. the ones that are involved, the richest power brokers who are pulling the strings to, end this earth in the long run. Certainly, it's taken a lot longer than they would have hoped. I have nothing but certain awareness that 12, 21, whatever, 2012, was certainly a projected end date. Uh, we're still here for a reason, and I have nothing but the awareness and optimism and belief that we're going to be here for a long time. There's certainly still plenty that are trying to hold us down, but with control of the weather being one of them. Uh, out in California, there's drought. Certainly, weather can be controlled, and it is being controlled. But it also has the ability to be controlled. Since that ability exists, why not use it for good? To end the droughts in places that have forest fires, and like in California where they're going through just mass droughts. Why not use it to make winters mild, everywhere, and especially in places that are not used to having winter weather events like Atlanta and across the South. Um, and certainly, you know, just let's just put it blatantly, to not terrorize regions with weather events, you know, which are very, you know, the mindset behind it is to, I saw in Atlanta, people were stuck in their cars and stuff. Well, the the ones that are pulling their strings or have control over that weather and producing those, what's the word I'm looking for? Weather events that are not anything other than natural. Um, they're very formulated, they're premeditated, and yes, it's being done to you know uh, have those have those have those ends. A lot of people, what I call it, conspiracy theory. It's not. It's a conspiracy. The not nobody's talking about it, and certainly I take pride in talking about that because it's a conversation that needs to be talked about. And I also understand that a lot of people are in fear, and we're living in a police state society in this country, especially. I find it quite disgusting that. And let me first say this: questioning the president and questioning our government. Uh, what's wrong with that? I know people have been feared to not talk about it, and certainly, I've been somebody that's been hunted for the past, well, for a long time I was hunted, and now I live in a pretty comfortable place. I still got constant interference in my life, but I take that on, and I don't apologize for my stance against speaking out against things that are wrong in my life and in everybody's life, because you know um, why should I remain silent about things that are just very bad, especially in the present. And I often relate stories from the past to get across, to teach, or to. Speech is not my biggest forte unless you're going to put me in a promo situation where I have time to. But just, yeah. Um, so, Um, Questioning the president. Well, I don't see what's wrong with that, other than I can see a lot of people are intimidated by doing so, because at that point you get on his, I don't know what you want to call it, but his shit list, for lack of a better word. Anybody that questions the president, certainly I, who have been doing so for so long, become what they probably, and without formally being told, just knowing for the past 5 years, um, you get on their, who knows what they call it, terror watch list, whatever. I'm certainly not a terrorist, but I understand that kill lists are very real in this country. Yes, the government and the president do have kill lists. I'm sure I have nothing but the ability to know that I've been on that. I've survived that. It hasn't been formally told me I was on a kill list, but yeah, being aware that yes, I've been wanted dead. Certainly not these days. I don't worry about dying. I don't sit around and fret about it. Now, when I'm in clear and present danger, as much of this country is, especially with the weather events, the controlled weather events that are hitting a lot of this nation right now, that's what I consider clear and present danger. And I feel it necessary to bring an awareness to that. I feel it necessary. It's, if nobody else is going to talk about it, well, and certainly there are. I would ask people to go to intellihub.com. I can't think. Or there are places out there other than me that speak out about this, and everybody from every walk of life, even the police, the government, nurses, whatever, healthcare, security, whatever, there's good and bad in all facets of life, just like weather control. Even though it's being used very badly right now, that has, since it's already here, the ability to control the weather, that has the ability to be used very effectively, or very progressively, very positively, to bring the regions that are in drought, rain, and not, certainly not anything but, rain where it will, cure the drought effectively. That's not by any means saying, just bombard that region with rain, but, to where it floods. But yeah, I think anybody who has a brain can understand that. To do anything other than put severe weather like these winter weather events that are just wreaking havoc all over the country. And I see the forecast for the next few days across the country that this shit's going to be continuing, and I certainly will be the first one to speak out about it, in hopes that it doesn't continue, and that people become aware, and that this isn't prophecy. And certainly plenty of people will put God on use God or prophecy, or just blatant blatant um, misinformation, false propaganda, fear mongering, brainwashing, whatever you want to say. The ability to control the weather, and then by these same operatives, or people that are of the highest power brokers of the earth, and certainly drain down or drizzle down to the operatives that are not only all over here in this country, but certainly in other countries, confusing the world. I mean, I heard on TV somebody comparing, loosely, and I don't want to bring any heat to them, and they apologize for it, but I certainly will not apologize for it. What does this society remind me of? Not Germany, because Germany is fine. I don't know anything about Germany. Nazi Germany, being what I studied in at a young age, and factually real time footage. Genocide's very real in this country, and I don't mind bringing that up. I'm certainly not using it to scare, but yes, it's done quite brazenly. Murder and just demolition of city blocks and of people who the government uh, that are not bad people, but that the government deems to be bad people. They're taken out quite brazenly. You've got construction. Nothing against a specific construction, but let's face it, construction has gone from when I used to do construction, concrete construction, years ago, 12, whatever years ago, I'm not going to pinpoint it right now. It was done with Danmo's Construction, a very relevant, independent, uh, you know, non-city, for lack of a better way to put it. Now everything's controlled, or now all construction, a lot of it, especially city, is done by the city and the government. And it's just not done well, and it's being used to certainly when mass murder and genocide and how else would you call it? Mowing down city blocks and people, in brazen daylight. How pompous, how brazen of these motherfuckers to, and they use what I call a perimeter, not like a police perimeter, but they use big white vehicles, white trucks. They can use dispatch, they can use distractions, police sirens to distract people away from it. Construction. I learned, by listening uh, back probably 2 years ago in Denver. Yeah, people, things I was already had a sense of and a concept of were put into blatant or just real time words when I sat and listened and interacted with a group of gentlemen outside of a restaurant. They were gentlemen that were, as I was outside smoking outside of this restaurant, they were talking about, having guns. I already got that. Didn't matter to me. I started asking what line of work they were. One was an electrician, one was a plumber, and, they worked in institutions and government, or not government institutions. They worked in places like fed or institutions, like, what am I trying to say? Like like jails and institutions, and like on the just various works, healthcare, which I understood. And believe me, as the night went on, I began to understand more. I was like, oh, okay, so you guys carry guns, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, what do you do? Well, I'm an electrician. He's a plumber, and oh, okay. I certainly didn't, make any. This is information for me, but yeah. Later in the evening, as we were sitting outside, because my evening went on, I went inside, came out, and smoked. These guys, as I listened to them without, making them aware that I was alerted by any means, certainly that wouldn't have been smart to, you know, learn anything from it. You know, these guys are already put together. Were a group. They're plain clothes, and I knew they worked, not what I would consider, and operatives, CIA operatives, and by CIA operatives, that goes down to endless levels, not only in this country, but in many other countries. But let's face it, um, in the same restaurant, not that long, well, throughout the night later, a whole section filled up with police officers or deputies or whatever, marked units. And as I was sitting outside smoking a cigarette, these gentlemen I interacted earlier with, all of a sudden, a marked, you know, what I call it, he was about as giddy as a schoolgirl. He came outside and said, "Ooh, when's the next plan dark? The plan dark, the plan dark, the plan dark. Ooh, ooh, when do you have plan dark?" This guy was just like a fan teeny bopper to these what I know what I consider, and believe me, I use my own language for everything because these were the federal, you know, these were the federal men, whatever, the operatives that work above the police and above, you know, whatever in this government. And certainly, these police department. Anyway, this Barney Fife looking motherfucker. Nothing against that gentleman. This big fat motherfucker who's out there. When's the plan dark? Isn't there a plan dark? I mean, he was like a little schoolgirl asking these guys questions, and plan dark certainly meant a plan snuffing. But I later, just to make this end this story, um, and these guys were out there, and one of this gentleman that I spoke to um, earlier in the evening, and when his other slime ball went in, I stared this guy down the whole night. I don't even know if he recognized who it was, but he sat there. He was a little sawed off guy. I mean, I call him a little fucking gooey. He had the appearance like he was this tough guy. He was this little skinny little shit, and he just the whole night, amongst him and his other federal flop operatives, just kind of, they all kind of thought, ooh, this guy's a grease. I stared him down. Believe me, I'll get to that here in a sec. But there was another guy out there, that was talking, and he was the one that kind of said, yeah, we carry guns and knives, we're electricians, but and even though I heard a lot from him that I didn't like, we sat down at one point. We related. When the other guy went in, he said, we talked about dogs, and he said his father had just passed. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. And but later on, they were outside. These two operatives, and this one said, well, Mick, he not necessarily Mick, but he pulled the name out of the air, not out of the air, somebody he knew. I can't remember the exact name because that's not important. He said, let's say call him Jeeves, whatever. He said a name, he said he's a really unique one. When we're out combining people down in the fields, he's he likes to get out on his own and go and pick out the big parts. Like go out on his own and pick out the big parts. I mean, they were talking about this guy like he was strange. Well, certainly I wouldn't disagree, but yeah, you know, let's put it up. And a perimeter, as I consider it, could be anything. It could be dispatch. It could be taxi cabs. And I love to use taxi cabs, and it's nothing all inclusive. It could be sirens going off. It could be trains going off. It could be any distraction, but around an area where construction, and believe me, yes, saws that are used to dirt saws are not relevant in construction. They are certainly relevant to put you know cream cadavers, there certainly saw them up. And this type of discussion, I'm not afraid to open up. I have an ability to believe that a lot of other people understand this, and I certainly don't expect them to acknowledge it. Um, you know, everybody's, it's a work, my friends, and let's face it, life is a work. You know, we all got to work in our own ways. We can, believe me, there's police I have respect for. There's, you know, every form of life, as long as they're respectful to me, I also understand that they have their own ways of working for their own common goal. But there's certainly the bad. Everybody can use their position, especially at this day and age, you know, without, going and, first of all, ratting on yourself, ratting on anybody else. And, yeah. So, let's face it, weather control, one, it's very real. They, who is they? I don't have the names. I don't want the names. It's real. And often they manipulate it with, well, for instance, Obama. Obama knows about this, and let's talk about Obama for a second. Um, why is it wrong to question the president? I think it's very, I think it's very appropriate. I can tell you why many don't, and understandably, with complete empathy, because yes, we're living in a police state society, and I have nothing but the belief and knowledge to know that when Obama went in office, I was very supportive of him. He went in there with, and I can sense people. I'm a reader. He believed he was going in there to do good things. And once, what I once related to my mother is, man, he's got an awesome ability to convey to the people that thing. He could relate to the people, or when he was giving his speeches early on into his presidency, the first term. I mean, even though things weren't bad, and yeah, at that time he could blame it on Bush, and he was he was certainly had the ability to do so. But he could get across that, man, things are going to be progressive. He had an ability to speak to the people and get across a a comfort. Things are going to be progressive. He had an ability to relate to the people, rapport. Now I quite find that quite sickening, and even now, as I watch him, for so long, just in the recent past, I was quite disgusted by that, because he knows quite formally what is going on in this country, and he's still trying to get across as, oh, we're gonna be okay, we're gonna stay the course, blah blah blah. Without, of course, that Bush couldn't talk to the people. Bush was a bumbling fucking idiot. And anybody that spoke out against Bush, let's face it, here's something, for example, that needs to be spoken. When the Dixie Chicks, love you girl, they spoke out against President Bush. Well, that wasn't a public thing where the public was going against the Dixie Chicks. That was a media. Well, first of all, they had a camera. And you think the public has bulldozers? No. That was a planned thing, a government fucking setup thing where they got all these Dixie Chick CDs. They got a camera crew from the news media, which they massively control. Now, mind you, I have respect for different people in news media because, again, what I said earlier, even those who work in any different lines of field, they can do it the best they can. But it's a work, my friends. It's a work, and that's not a bad thing. We all got to work our own way, and either you're for or against, but you can certainly. Lying isn't a bad thing. Omission is not a bad thing. I lie all the time to protect myself and the people around me, and I certainly wouldn't do it any other way. I'm not malicious or do anything other than what I feel profound and I feel validated to do. But oh yeah, especially regarding anybody else's privacy and security. People don't ask me questions, but certainly, yeah, if they did, I don't know shit. Are you kidding me about anybody else? I'm deaf, dumb, and blind. I'm from fucking Iowa. You know, down low is not just something that is sexual. It's certainly been used for that. But that too, it's across the board. I don't give out anybody else's information. I'll talk about myself and my own agenda, but I don't tie my agendas to anybody else. And I certainly don't ever apologize for anybody in my company. And let's just face it, people often, to their own fucking ignorance, think they're in danger or gonna be in heat. Apparently you haven't been around me long enough, because nobody dies, nobody goes to jail, nobody is in danger. Places don't get mowed down, people don't go to their death when I'm in the area. It's quite the opposite. And for so long, yeah, certainly, I have no control over it, but I'll go to a segment in time in my mind, certainly not specifically, where there was a certain segment in town, years past, we'll say, where anytime I'm along the board, yeah, anywhere I go, these trucks and stuff will follow me, these city trucks and whatever. I'm not scared of them, I'm not intimidated, but it's just wherever I go, they follow me. So, if I go up and talk to them, it's not like, ooh, I'm giving you information. Hey, check this person out. That's Joe Nobody. This is, it's like, hey, fuck you, Greg. I know who the fuck you are. Not me, of course, but Greg on the city crew who went along with the thing. And he was driving a city truck one day. In the past, never, whenever, and just kind of stalking me when I didn't want him to be stalking me. And he pulled up, I don't know, outside of a come and go pawn shop, wherever, never, San Diego, parts unknown, years past, wherever. It doesn't matter. I might walk up to him and say, you know what? Get the fuck out of here, motherfucker. And I walk back, and certainly anybody else would think I was, relating to him, coordinates or information of vital statistics about the people that might just be on my side. But no, I don't debrief. I am Fort Knox as far as security, and that ain't no shit. If people often wonder why they can't understand what I say, or why my language is a little bit misunderstood, it's the way it should be. I don't apologize that for a second. I might speak a lot, especially about myself, as you've noticed. But I've always got to watch what I say, and I always got to keep my thoughts can't always just come out of my head, because yeah, believe me, as much as I speak, there is so much, and you got to remember this, and this is 100% serious. Believe me, if you ever accuse me of talking too much or putting too much out there, believe me, you will never understand the just mass amounts of knowledge from birth to present that never gets let out. And that is the most important thing. What not to let out, you motherfuckers. Love you. I didn't say motherfucker. Hey, what do I have to apologize? That's how I speak. Yes. But if I look like I have a hard time speaking, it is. Hey, I don't apologize for that, because, yeah. I've spoken in tongues all my life because Nobody ever had to tell me that. I protect everybody. Myself, life and death, I'm not worried about unless it's clear and present danger. I protect everybody. And that, hey, let's face it, I've cleaned up so many incidents that have been set up by people who have just fucked with my life. But I don't have energy going back and fucking with them. Excuse me, that was a burp. Yeah, I drink diet soda. Okay then. Now, on to a couple other things. Yeah, genocide, it happened, and I'm not shitting around about this. Yes, it is okay to question my president. It is okay for me to question my president, and I'm not a terror to him. I'm not asking anybody, nor would I ever, nor do I organize or anything. I spread information to the people. I don't go to the tabloids. I don't go to the press. I don't go to certainly not the law, or on the record, except my own record. And it's the only record that matters to me. And yeah, I've been on kill lists. I've never been told that, but I have been because, yeah, like, hey, Denver Broncos, boom, my city. And believe me, I have much more pride than Denver than my own city, Sioux City, because right now it's snooze. The snooze. I often get treated the worst in my own city because, let's face it, this is my grandmother's house. When I moved on to this block, a year ago when I got back from Las Vegas, after I lived there, mind you, I just took a trip there. I travel occasionally. Love you, Las Vegas. Yeah, I grew up in this. This was my grandma's house. Somebody that I love. I love you, Grandma. She's gone, but she. I'm okay. I'm okay with our memories together. Me and my grandma were good. And she, I'm learning more and more. She was a lot like me, and I remember things she told me when I was growing up. My grandma's good with me, and anyway. Meet me, mother, brother. Meet me down that river road. And Grandma, surely you know that I'll be there when I cash in our load. Ain't no grave can hold my body down. My grandma was Shirley Kincannon. Her husband, who died in my early childhood, now mind you, I call him Jack, Grandpa Jack, but his name was Ray Kincannon. They're old school. I find things in this house that aren't marred by any other entity, I won't say names, that have gotten into this house and been a distraction. Everything's in this house. I feel my grandma and grandpa every day, and like, I remember as a kid and walking around this house, as a little shit, always going down the basement and, looking through this stuff and like, wow, fucking cool, and still to stay. I don't need all that, besides my computer technology today, which I love and I hate sometimes. Believe me, I love the old school. It's all that. I don't call myself old school. It's not something I like to go around and call myself. It's something other people call me from time to time, which I take, great pride in. Biggest compliment I've ever gotten. I don't know where along the way, and I'm making this vague purposely. Um, could have been years past, could have been years present, whatever the fact of the matter is, whoever. A 4-year-old young man, and I was friends with this family and whatever. I hadn't seen him for a while. I had no doubt that it'll turn out to be just the man. His father, my friend at the time, and left the room for a second. Um, I never go, talking to little kids, nor would it be appropriate. Obviously, that's not appropriate, but this person's kids, when I was in their house, they were quite fond of me. And, it wasn't because, kids are psychic like dogs, animals. They know. He had left the room, and this kid, we just anyway, he said, thank you. Hey, my lips are sealed, but at the time, your Padres out of the room, you want to talk, I ain't never gonna rattle you. Oftentimes, when I'm out in public, kids will communicate to me without me ever talking to them or being near to them. Kids are psychic, and it's far too often tragic that they're brainwashed, they're influenced, they're taken from their true spirit, and it's so haunting. I hear parents say, don't cry. Oh, shit. Our kids don't mean, and I was just seeing a mom on TV talking about how our kids, how our nation needs to be, put into these regimented I can't remember the exact, but these federal programs. What about the fucking vets on the streets, Obama? I was in San Diego. It's not just, and believe me, the military I don't have um, like or dislike for, believe me, because I grew up in my father was in the military. My father was in the Navy. My grandpa was in the military. My grandpa that I had profound respect for, even though I was the age of 4, and you know, most places I've gone in this country that have been military installations, being San Diego, um, by the military here locally, I've gotten the most respect because I've been through just things that they've been through, except not on the same conditions. I've lived and I've survived through conditions that only we could both understand. And in San Diego, fuck it, you know what? I don't care. For all those kids that are told that it's sissy to fucking cry, you know what? Fuck them. Fuck them all. You know why? Because it's not. I very rarely cry. And when I do, it's out in public and nobody knows a goddamn thing. But, out in San Diego, even though it was one of the hardest times of my life, I was on the streets. Um, a lot of the vets, a lot of the people, even the younger people that were military. They treat her with me respect. And especially the old vets, that were, I don't know, they weren't old, but they were like 50, 60 years old. And they're living on the streets because they didn't have the fucking housing, the health care, that Obama wants to give. Everybody, let's just face it, across the board, everybody, healthcare should be free. And let's face it, in this country right now, if you can't afford healthcare, if you can't pay for everything, then I call it horror healthcare because I've been in hospitals and I've survived conditions, and believe me, I've cured myself because I don't want to go into hospital. And I've talked to plenty of people that haven't been able to afford it. They go into hospitals. If they come out alive, they come out different and changed. And there is body dumping. And there are mass graves all over this country. And there are blocks and genocide going on. And you know what? There are kill lists. And you know what? There are unmanned drones. And the president knows about this. And let's face it. The Senate and Congress are gridlocked. You know what? That doesn't matter. The president has a voice of this nation, and he is lying. He is lying to our people, and not addressing this, And when he uses general terminology, I heard him give the State of the Union address. Oh, just basic. He's not giving any specifics. There's nothing specifically being talked about. Who's on your terror threat list? What does a terror threat list mean? That means our own citizens like me, I'm sure, that are speaking out for the benefit of this nation. Anybody that speaks out against Obama, and believe me, I heard somebody, I'm not even going to that they compared this to like Nazi Germany, and not Germany current stance. But yes, it is. It's like a Reichstag environment. Yes, murder and genocide is going on in this country. Years past, I knew that. It's being done very formally. You know it's about this. Kill lists? Are you kidding me? Yeah, of course. I've been on them. Not because I've been told that or I've been shown a piece of paper. Because I knew I was wanted dead. Just like the people that I went through that with in Denver. And, the first time around. And thankfully, Denver, love ya. You're going to win the... even if you don't win, but you will. Denver's going to win. I have the faith in that. I had Super Bowl. I got more heart for Denver and Prada. Prada is the king of Denver. You don't know what Prada is? Never heard of the brand, the name Prada. My friend. You take that throne. And let me see what else I got here. Weather control. Healthcare should be free, by the way. Fuck Obamacare. Fuck, Medicaid and Medicare. I've got Medicaid right now. It's a fucking clusterfuck. Healthcare, why don't we... I don't know because we've got so many operatives in other countries fucking shit up, but Canada's got, last I heard, they got free healthcare, which has an ability, believe me, yeah, there's enough, okay, food, water, shelter, resources, whatever. They should be available for everybody, not just about, and believe me, I don't look down like Obama puts this person up who fought a war, and, I don't know his own story, but, that guy made it through a lot of stuff. So have a lot of people here in this country, Obama, that are still alive and who have not been put into the ground in mass graves in your own country in broad daylight in recent past. And we've been fighting too. We've been fighting against this mass fucking, you know, quit using the weather to fucking, put us down and kill us, and make us, quit using healthcare. You know why people don't want to go into your hospitals and stuff? I call it horror healthcare because they come out body dumping. You know, people come out worse than they go in unless you got the money to pay for it. Comprehensive, relevant healthcare across the board. That need free healthcare for everybody. We've got enough money. You're writing checks. We need to take ourselves. We need to make ourselves. And I'm speaking for Obama, and believe me, I can't speak for him. But we need. We should not be the conscience of the rest of the world in what. Oh, they've got nuclear capabilities. We've got the biggest fucking already enriched nuclear database in this country. We've got the most nuclear capability. So how the hell are we going around telling other nations they should not and they should? Why the hell are we the conscience of the rest of the world when our country, and why the hell is Obama on the State of the Union talking about the rest of the world? Our country is suffering, Obama. Why not focus on our country and leave the rest of the world alone? They can handle it on themselves, especially a lot better without you being, or our country being involved in it. We've got enough problems in this own country. We've been living in a police state. People have been intimidated and fucking bent over and, broker deals and whatever. I'm one of the few, mind you, and it's no, there's, I'm not a guilt-monger or fear-monger or whatever. Just because you flipped to that side or whatever or gone along with it, well, the mass majority of this population has in this country. That doesn't mean you can't work it your own way. The hustle is real. And to stay alive, I'm going to demand that weather control be used not to make conditions here in Iowa or, Atlanta or anywhere, New York or anywhere, especially during the winter, just, because believe me, you call it the high cabal, the Illuminati, whatever, it's not prophecy, and certainly they'll put the name of God on it and say, well, these are things years past that God. You know what? I'll say this right now. Religion, especially Catholicism, is used, based in myth and lore to, as a means to misinform the people about what's going on. Like things say, well, Genesis 20, whatever, is calling for winter storms and all sorts of... No, it's not. Our real-time forces that are corrupting this earth are doing that, and then they want to misinform or, use false propaganda to tell the people. You can put the name of God on anything these days. Believe me, go watch the TV shows, The Seed and the Harvest, whatever. There's no regulation on that. And the only thing that matters is the present and the future. Anything, well, of course, history, relevant history. You wanna research real history? It's certainly not that shit being taught in history books. And I say that because our children, our youth, are the most important, and because, you know what, oftentimes our adults are misinforming them or just completely lying to them about history. You want to research real history? Here's some real history. Real history. Research things like this. You know, this isn't certainly where I've been around, and you know, but I've also been researching history before my time. I've been around enough, and but these are things to reference. If you don't believe what I'm saying, this is real history. You know, the stuff being taught to our children, and believe me, oh, that's something else I wanted to get to. Hold on one second. Yes, it is a crime in my mind, and a crime against humanity that non-violent whatever. The laws are too broad, and they're open to use for whatever reason. Um, yes, people that possess and ingest any form of substance should not be criminally held liable. I know that. Um, Oftentimes they are, and I'm speaking for the boys and the women that are behind walls for years and years and years for that. When child molesters, fucking pedophiles, fucking rapists, fucking murderers, fucking torturers are allowed to go free because they go along with whatever their broker deals, and they have the ability and they certainly have the protection to do so. And any time that children are fucked with, believe me, that is something that will not be tolerated. It doesn't happen in my presence, but yeah, you keep brokering deals. Believe me, if you think you got past, um, I'm just showing that last book, and believe me, if you broker enough deals, you sold your ass enough for the governmental cock that bent you over. Whatever you fucking bought into, whatever monetary gain, whatever you got out of legally to get where you're at. And believe me, if you feel comfortable and high and mighty, believe me, that's coming back around. Because people are not stupid. People remember. And people know. In the end, memory remembers. Yes. The families. Oh. One last thing. We're going near an hour here. And I want to wrap up before I go too long, because there'll be plenty more videos. And if you got questions, don't be afraid to ask. It's all confidential with me. I've got a... My mind is like Fort Knox. And believe me, that will never be broken. What I know about other people, their privacy, their security, everything, that will never be broken into. And believe me, people don't answer questions. I'm down for low for life. And that just doesn't cover sexuality. It's a minor part of it. It means I'll talk about myself and what I want to talk about myself all day, and my philosophies and my beliefs and whatever I do in my own life. Just because I go out and talk to other people doesn't mean I tie that to them or they have anything to do with it. Quite much the opposite. I don't bring on the heat, and believe me, that's been the misconception across the board. I still find it, just unbelievable to watch. People don't go to jail in my presence. I diffuse those situations. I started doing that in Denver a couple years ago when I saw ambulances and stuff and setups being pulled up to certain areas. I'd move into those situations and diffuse those non-violently, not formally. I have my own way to work it. Without getting in there and going, you gotta solve this, and whatever. I've got a billion different ways to get things done, and 99% of them have nothing to do with physicality or terrorism, or I don't make bombs. I don't fucking. So yeah, for Obama to say, well, the only people that are being monitored are those on our terror threat list. Fuck that, Obama. It's all right to question the president. Why not? If our president's not doing right, why should we live in fear? If our country's not going good, if things are bad, I say that's all the more reason to question. I'll do it, and I don't expect anybody else to do what they don't want to do. But you're goddamn right. If our president, and believe me, he's become a lot more, like reminiscent. Now he was cool, calm, and collected, for so long. And believe me, that sounds more like Bill. I actually respect Bill Clinton. I missed the time when Bill Clinton was in office, believe me. I like Bill Clinton. What can I say? Never met the guy, but no, like Obama, making things calm. All of a sudden, he's getting people are calling him on his shit, and now he's getting a lot more dictatorish and fucking, me. Well, that's because people are seeing through his bullshit and his lies. And let's face it, when mass genocide, mass corruption, and especially the legal system, that is broken. And thankfully, I remembered. I want to get back to the Dark Knight. I have profound respect, and I've been through a lot with Denver, and I'll own Denver. Not own them, but I'll own that city. I mean, as far as place, I've been through a lot. I love Denver. I love the Denver Metro, Aurora, everywhere, because they've been through so much, and I've been through so much with them. And you know what? They've got the spirit, and they keep coming back, and they will not die. And, tomorrow on Saturday, hey, win or lose, come on, are you kidding me? They're going to win. Yeah, but Denver, I love you in the Metro. And I'm going to speak this because I don't care what anybody thinks about it. I've been to Aurora, and I've been through, down on East Colfax. This is one of my favorite places to stay. I got treated better down there than I did up on the pompity circumstance of, high society, whatever. The rich parts of town, but, yeah, the Dark Knight, and I'm not going to go into detail. If you want to know, I already know. Okay, first of all, that Dark Knight showing at midnight, first of all, it was a movie, let's face it. It was not popular by the government. Second of all, it was a SWAT hit. Now, 9 people did die. I don't know how many were injured because the news media fucking took that and just was being puppeted. That was so mingled. I've read enough accounts. Yes, SWAT was already there. People coming out of their theaters. It was a SWAT hit. And a man who is still not gone to trial, and a man who the media and the police and whatever and the country is already deemed as guilty of something he did not do. He is innocent, and I will say that because I find it very profound and necessary for myself to speak out against the innocent, especially who are set up, because I've been there before. I've gotten myself out of it, not by going along, not by throwing other people under the bus, just by good energy, but the man, I can't even think of his name. He hasn't even gone to trial yet. He is innocent, and that is a fact. And yes, I will speak out about that till the day that man goes free. He hasn't even gone to trial. How could he get a fair trial when the media and the police and whatever, they set up like Hollywood-like stunts without any factual basis, and I know for a fact, and, my heart goes out to the people that were affected by that tragedy. Certainly the dead and the families. and the people that were injured and terrorized, um, my heart goes out to them. They certainly had time to recover, and it was wrong. It was a SWAT hit. One man did not go in there, tear gas that whole place, kill 9 people, and depending on which number you wanted to believe on the real time coverage of the events, how many were injured, it went up and down and up and down. Yes, people were injured, people were terrorized, and people were killed. They had time to recover. What about the man sitting in a jail cell? He hasn't had time to recover. And you know what? He's innocent. It was blamed on him. It was a SWAT hit. And I know that for a fact. So, it's not the only case in this country. Believe me, it goes on quite a bit. Where, fun and games is the special ops like to call it. The covert operatives like to call it fun and games because they're having fun with their games. When they do murder or fucking rape or torture, and you know what, they like to blame it on people that aren't popular. Look at Charles Manson, a man of innocence. They had he was somebody that wasn't popular because he was enlightening people at that time. And stuff like that, even though it's not wrong, anything but beneficial is often looked down upon. And 6 women, were turned and flipped and intimidated, whatever. The hit at the can't even think of her name. The actress, that hit was done. They flipped those women to blame Manson for mind controlling them. They were intimidated or whatever. And then Manson was, tattooed on his head again with fours, a swastika. And it's quite that's what I'm looking for. It is quite it quite helped out their cause that every time they showed Manson, well, yeah, he had a picture of a swastika that he was held down and that was branded on his head by those that had him locked up. He didn't do that. And that he looked like he was, completely crazy. He wasn't crazy. He was being tortured. I mean, he had long hair and didn't have the ability to bathe or shower, and he was being, yeah. No wonder he looked fucking, yeah. And Manson likely still sits in prison, and he might have been killed, but perfect time to end this.